Portal 2 speedruns are elegantly broken. Between clever usage of intended game mechanics and mind-boggling glitches, almost all of the 60 single-player chambers have some impressive speedrun route. In fact, if you've watched any other video on my channel, you probably know just how complex some of these tricks and glitches can be. After seeing some of these absurd techniques, you might naturally ask, how do people even find these things? And you might even think that you have to be a genius to speedrun Portal 2. And while I'd love for that to be true, it just isn't. Even to this day, there are a ton of strat discoveries that have the community collectively facepalm. Skips so obvious that we think, how didn't we find this sooner? But the biggest example of a discovery that took way too long to find is the speedrun strat for the last chamber of Chapter 2, as this skip was hiding in plain sight for almost 7 years. This is the story of Fizzler Intro. Fizzler Intro is a pretty simple level. All you need to do is activate a laser receiver and the ending door opens. This can be done trivially with portals, but try walking to the door and you'll meet a fizzler, which resets your progress. Instead, you need to press a button to spawn a laser cube on the other side of the level and use it to redirect the laser. The only problem is that you once again have to deal with the fizzler, which destroys your cube if you try to bring it through. The key detail to this puzzle is the hole in the glass over here where you can shoot a portal through. This allows you to bring your cube to the other side of the chamber and redirect the laser to solve the puzzle. It's a short, straightforward, and maybe even forgettable level. In fact, if you remember anything about this chamber, it's probably GLaDOS' sped up voice line.
Wait, this next test does require some explanation. Let me give you the fast version. There, if you have any questions, just remember what I said in slow motion.
So the only things the player can interact with in this chamber are portal surfaces, a laser cube, a button that activates the laser cube dropper, and a fizzler. So there's not a whole lot to work with here. Given everything I've shown you, what do you think the speedrun for this chamber looks like? What possible skips could you come up with in this small, limited room? Well, if you thought there weren't any skips, you'd be wrong. In 2011, only 4 days after the game's release, speedrunner Demonstrate would already showcase a speedrun route for the chamber. Immediately after entering, he portals up near the glass hole and walks on top of the assembling wall panels to land on a ledge behind the glass. This allows him to simply shoot 2 portals to connect the laser to its receiver, and then hop right to the chamber's end, with no fizzler obstructing his path. It's worth noting that you can make the jump to the ledge without using the assembling panels, but since they're there anyways at the start of the chamber, we use them to get a little less airtime. This was a pretty easy and uncomplicated speedrun route, but that was to be expected with a simple chamber like Fizzler Intro. So despite being found mere days after the game's release, this seemed like the definitive route for the chamber. In October of 2011, the peer-reviewed DLC was released, adding challenge mode to the game, so we finally got to see documented speedruns of the level. The oldest surviving recorded run was from Tyronis, who solved the puzzle in just 16.46 seconds. There's obviously a lot of room to improve here, but you could see pretty early on just how quick the chamber was. And it would only get faster, as a month later, Bananasaurus Rex would tackle the level and score a 13.68 second time. It was now clear that Fizzler Intro was a perfectionist chamber, a short and simple route where the smallest details of your execution could greatly impact your rank on the leaderboards. As one of the best speedrunners in the early days of Portal 2 speedrunning, it was no surprise that Bananasaurus Rex would excel here. Throughout late 2011 and early 2012, B-Rex would fight for his record with another runner named Dex, whose runs have unfortunately been lost to time. But over the course of 3 months, B-Rex would lower the record all the way down to 12.55. Better circle jumps out of the elevator, better bunny hops throughout the chamber, and faster portal shots to connect the laser. And as the years went on, runners refined their movement and generally got better at Portal 2. In this time, almost all of the levels in the game saw new and exciting speedrun routes. But Fizzler Intro remained the same, a plain chamber where the best speedrunner would get the best time. In late 2012, Pocky was able to hold a record for about a year, ending at an impressive 12.36, cutting 0.2 of a second. But in late 2013, XIPE would start dominating the Portal 2 Challenge Mode competition, with Fizzler Intro being no exception. In September of 2013, he would bring the record down all the way to 12.13, and you can start to see just how polished the movement was. Every mouse movement was so intentional in order to squeak out just a bit more speed or to run a more precise path to the glass hole or the end. All of these movement micro-optimizations would culminate into the first sub-12 speedrun. In January of 2014, XIPE would nail a super clean run and achieve an 11.90. This run, visually, seemed just about perfect. And at this point, you've probably realized something. This chamber is boring. I mean, there are a lot of subtle details that make these speedruns faster than their predecessors, but at the end of the day, this speedrun can be simplified into a Counter-Strike B-Hop map with the world's shortest aim labs challenge. In fact, this chamber speedrun is so forgettable that the speedrun community basically forgot about it for 2 years. Either that, or maybe XIPE was just that good at the game, because no one even got close to contesting the Fizzler intro record, as there was still a fairly healthy 0.25 second gap between XIPE and any other runner, which in a chamber this short is a pretty large difference. But one day in 2016, XIPE woke up and decided that that was too close, so he beat the record by another 1/10 of a second, just because he could, I guess. This was the Fizzler intro speedrun, a simple, straightforward chamber with no gimmicks, so the best runner always had the best time. So naturally, in a couple of years, a new top runner would come along and squeeze out some more time from the chamber. But in May of 2018, that's not what happened at all, because the next Fizzler intro world record holder would be Nex. Far from an established top runner, as this was his second ever single-player Portal 2 world record, and he beat it by a whopping 0.4 seconds. How is this even possible?
This next test involves emancipation grills. Remember?
Wait. You can do that? Instead of going all the way to the glass hole to connect the laser, Nex shoots through the constructing chamber floor, which apparently we've always been able to shoot through. There is nothing complex here. No weird glitches or anything of the sort. You can just shoot through the floor. This took us 7 years to figure out. 7 years! Just like how these panels, which, by the way, we've been walking over in every single speedrun, were tracked into place at the start of the chamber, the small wall blocking the floor of the upper section of the chamber also starts broken, and we have a solid couple of seconds to shoot through before the wall constructs. After discovering this, Nex was easily able to beat the record with an 11.41 time, and after it hit the leaderboards, the entire community was beyond shocked. Seriously, I can't put into words just how absurd this discovery is. Around this time in Portal 2 history, we were discovering prop physics abuse that allowed us to turn defective turrets into flying machines, and elaborate out-of-bounds skips by using light bridges to clip us through walls. But the true innovation we were missing out on all this time was shooting through the fucking floor in Fizzler Intro. This breakthrough resulted in a flood of new times on Fizzler Intro, with 15 new world record runs set in the span of just 24 hours. Competition was now wide open, as there was nearly a second of unrealized time save with this new route, so just about anyone could get the record on the chamber. That's where I come in. I actually got in on the pandemonium here and got the world record 3 different times. This sounds impressive, but because of all the activity, I only held the Fizzler intro world record for precisely 13 minutes. Yes, 13 minutes. I beat XIPE by 0.02 seconds, then improved my own time again 7 minutes later, just for XIPE to beat me 3 minutes after. Then, when I beat him again 4 minutes later, Rex bested my time in only 3 minutes. It was a truly crazy time to be a Portal 2 speedrunner. But after 24 hours, things would settle down, and we'd end with Rex having a 10.31 time, exactly 1.5 seconds faster than XIPE's old record with the glass hole route. This new route actually turned Fizzler Intro into the perfect perfectionist level, as now, since you just had to bunny hop in a straight line, your movement has to be essentially perfect to contest the record. On top of that, shooting these portals on the fly is surprisingly technical. You need to crouch just the right amount such that the player is low enough to have a sightline on the portal surface, but not too low that you incur a speed penalty from fully crouching. Besides being fast, it just looks incredibly smooth when you're able to just tap crouch and nail these portal shots. It makes for a speedrun where almost every single millisecond of improvement is rewarding. Take it from Zype, as it took him almost a full year to beat Rex's time, but just by 0.01 seconds. In 2021, speedrunners would continue to improve the record, as Tacky Tactics, Soul, and Unity would each save around 0.05 seconds from the record. Most of the time save came from faster circle jumps, both out of the starting elevator and into the final door, as well as trying to crouch for the least amount of time possible. At this level of execution, you're crouching for just the perfect amount of time where the portal shot is just barely visible, so it's actually a very hard shot to land. Another fun fact here is because this chamber is so short and simple, it was actually the example map that runners used for practicing their circle jumps out of the elevator, which is a surprisingly important aspect of a Portal 2 speedrun. I actually haven't mentioned it yet, but in almost every chamber in Portal 2, the opening door is on a cycle. Specifically, there's an invisible trigger that checks if you're close enough to the door for it to automatically open, but it only checks if you're there every 0.1 seconds. This means that if your circle jump out of the elevator is just slightly slow enough to miss a cycle, you end up losing a full 1/10 of a second. This is relevant on almost every level, but in Fizzler Intro, which is just 10 seconds long, being able to enter the chamber 0.1 seconds faster than your opponents was a huge advantage. And if you don't really understand this door cycle stuff, just imagine a bus. You've watched a speedrun video before, you know how these things work. Later in 2022, FBOS would nearly perfect the chamber, getting 3 records in the course of 2 days, ultimately beating the chamber in just 10.05 seconds. It's an unbelievably clean run, and just watching it, it's hard to see any room for improvement. This time would stand uncontested for 4 years, until Soul was able to tie this record in 2026. But notably, Soul implemented a new micro-optimization, pre-walking the starting circle jump. By using the small amount of space in the elevator, Soul is able to gain just a little extra speed before the doors open. Using this extra speed, he's able to more consistently match the strict door cycle needed to get the record. However, it would take another runner, MilkyFrenchToast, to perfect this pre-walk strategy, as with a perfect starting jump, MilkyFrenchToast is able to hit the opening trigger just fast enough to save a full door cycle, which instantly puts him 0.1 seconds ahead of the record. Using this, he was able to achieve the first sub-10 Fizzler intro run with a 9.95 time, saving exactly 0.1 seconds. This pre-walk door cycle is unbelievably strict, and genuinely requires perfect human movement. It may look like just a quick flick of the wrist, but being able to exit the elevator this fast is really, really hard. Only a few Portal 2 speedrunners are able to get this cycle. This is the only sub-10 speedrun, and this is where the record stands today. If you're curious, the TAS is able to beat the chamber in just about 9 seconds and some change, but that's with mathematically perfect movement, and a very stupid camera boost. At the human level, we'd probably be looking to save single ticks where we can. Or maybe there's some other route we're missing that can somehow make this level even faster. To this day, Fizzler Intro is still memed within the Portal 2 speedrunning community, as we continuously ask ourselves how it took us 7 years to find such an obvious shortcut. It's also used as the premier example that it's always worth questioning the current speedrun route and investigating any theories, because you never know when the real answer has been right in front of you the whole time. Thanks for watching.